If you dance with him again, don't expect me to be here when you get back. The words left my mouth quietly. No shouting. No dramatic storm off. I just said them like someone reading the weather report. She was barefoot on the grass, holding her heels in one hand and a wine spritzer in the other, the kind with fake raspberries floating at the top. Her makeup had started to smudge, not from crying, but from laughing too hard. At his jokes. The string lights above flickered like even they were tired of pretending. I was leaning against the fence, pretending not to watch, but watching every second. The second time she danced with him, I told myself it was innocent. The third time, I told myself I was being paranoid. But the fourth? She was holding his face. Not kissing it. Not yet. But cupping it, like they were alone. She spun back toward me when I spoke, only half hearing it, maybe not hearing it at all. Maybe she thought I was joking. But when she saw my face, she smirked, like I was being cute, like it was charming how jealous I got. Then she said it. Okay, Dad. And went back. Back to the music. Back to him. Back to whatever that connection was she insisted didn't exist. The one that was now rubbing her waist under paper lanterns like it was already his. I didn't say anything else. I didn't need to. Because 10 minutes later, when she came looking for me, I was gone. But that's not the part that hurts. What hurts is that she didn't call. She didn't text. She didn't even ask our friends where I went. She just stayed. She stayed at the party. With him. Like I was never even there to begin with. She came home at 1:12 a.m. Not late. Too late. The kind of late where silence starts speaking for you. I heard the garage open from the couch where I'd been sitting in the dark, eating peanut butter with a spoon and trying to decide if I felt more angry or pathetic. It was always a toss-up these days. Her heels clacked across the tile. She didn't even bother to be quiet. No apology. No, where were you? No recognition that I had left her with the same words people say when they're done trying. She just strolled into the kitchen like she was coming back from yoga, tossed her clutch on the counter, and said, "You're being dramatic again." That was her new favorite word. Dramatic. Not hurt. Not confused. Not can we talk. Just dramatic. Like I was rewriting reality because her actual behavior was too inconvenient to acknowledge. I asked her, calmly, who drove her home. She said Rylan did. The same Rylan I'd warned her about. The same Rylan who watched me leave and still kept his hands around her waist like he was claiming a prize. She said it like she was saying the weather. Rylan dropped me off. No big deal. Just a coworker. Just a man she swore didn't mean anything. I asked if he came inside. She laughed. Not loudly. Just that short, pitying kind of laugh people give when you ask something they think is beneath them. God, Clint. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with me? I told her again. I looked her in the eye and said, I wasn't joking earlier. Her response? You left. So what now? You want credit for coming back? I didn't say anything after that. I grabbed my keys, got in the car, and drove nowhere in particular. Ended up in a Walmart parking lot eating cold fries out of the bottom of a greasy bag while some teenagers skated figure eights in front of my headlights. I thought she might call. She didn't. She was asleep by the time I got back. Lights off. Door closed. Phone face down on her nightstand with a new notification glowing. One I wasn't supposed to see. But I saw the name. And it wasn't mine. It was his. And the preview? You looked so good tonight. That's all I caught before the screen went black again. I didn't wake her. I just stood there, in the doorway, listening to her breathe like nothing was wrong, like everything wasn't quietly coming undone. And that was the first time I realized. This wasn't a misunderstanding. It was a transition. She wasn't thinking about leaving me. She was already gone. I stared at that message for so long, I think my eyes stopped blinking. Just 5 words from him. You looked so good tonight, and yet they rang louder in my head than anything she'd said to me in months. I stood in that doorway, in the blue glow of her screen, trying to convince myself it meant nothing. Maybe he was drunk. Maybe she didn't reply. Maybe there was still a line she hadn't crossed yet. Maybe I was just a sad little man reading too far into everything like always. But then her phone buzzed again. Another message. Same name. This time I picked it up. I wanted to kiss you so bad. I still feel your body on mine. I didn't throw the phone. I didn't scream or rip it from the wall like they do in the movies. I just sat down on the edge of the bed like someone had unplugged all the electricity from my spine. I stared at her sleeping, trying to find something in her face that looked like the woman I married. But there was nothing. Just peaceful, careless sleep. No guilt. No restlessness. She was curled up like she didn't have secrets pressing down on her chest. I thought about waking her, shaking her awake and holding the phone in her face. But I knew what she'd do. She'd grab it, scroll fast, delete faster, and call me paranoid. She'd say it was out of context, that he was drunk, that nothing happened, that she was just being nice. She's always just being nice. So instead, I got up and walked out of the room. Again. This time, not because I was angry, but because I couldn't stand to be near her. I sat in the laundry room, of all places, next to the dryer that still had my work shirts in it. I watched the moonlight through the cracked window and tried to imagine how someone chooses to destroy a life you built together just because someone else smiled at them at the right time. At some point around 4:30 a.m., I started typing. Not a message to her. Not to him. Just notes. A list of all the moments that used to feel like love, but now just felt like setup. Like the time she laughed too hard at his joke in front of me. Or how she changed her perfume after that office retreat. Or how she stopped saying, "I love you," unless I said it first. It was all there. Every warning sign. Like red flags I walked past because I was too scared to admit I saw them. I didn't sleep. When the sun came up, I made coffee I didn't drink and stared at the kitchen counter like it was going to offer answers. She came downstairs around 8, yawning, wearing one of my hoodies like a weapon. And you know what she said? "Why are you up so early? You look like hell." I wanted to ask her if Rylan looked better this morning. If she texted him back. If she even remembered what she did. But I didn't. I just said I couldn't sleep. And she kissed me on the cheek. She kissed me. Like we were fine. Like everything was fine. Like she hadn't just crossed the invisible line between emotional fantasy and physical betrayal. That kiss. It was worse than any slap. Because I knew then, she was playing a part, and I was the only one who didn't realize the script had changed. The kitchen smelled like burnt toast, and something citrusy she'd sprayed in the air to make it seem like she'd cleaned. She was humming some random pop song and scrolling through her phone while I sat across the island, pretending to read an article I couldn't focus on. She kept glancing at me like she was trying to decide if I'd noticed something, if I knew. I think she could sense it. The stillness in me, the way I wasn't asking anything, wasn't reaching for her hand, wasn't trying to pretend we were okay. That silence made her twitchy. She asked if I wanted to go to her coworker's housewarming party that weekend. Said Rylan would probably be there, just a heads up. She used that tone, fake casual, forced breezy. The way people talk when they're trying to steer your emotions without being obvious. I told her I had work to catch up on. She said I'd been working a lot lately, like it was some kind of character flaw. Then, with her mouth full of eggs, she said, "You know, I really think you need to trust me more. This jealousy thing is kind of turning into a problem." That sentence nearly snapped something in me. I wanted to shout. I wanted to slam my hand down and scream. You don't get to call it jealousy when I've seen the texts. You don't get to play victim when you're the one standing on the edge of cheating and asking me to pretend it's a dance routine. But I didn't, because I knew how that game played out. She'd turn it on me. She'd cry. She'd accuse me of being unstable, controlling, insecure. And then, worst of all, she'd win. So instead, I just nodded and said, "You're right. Maybe I'm overthinking it." That was the moment I gave her permission to keep doing it. I saw it in her eyes, that tiny flicker of relief. Like she realized the door was still open, and I wasn't going to slam it shut. Not yet. She kissed me again before heading out for the day, this time slower, like she was thanking me for being blind. The second the door closed behind her, I walked upstairs and opened her laptop. The same laptop she used for everything. Work, socials, private messages. The same one I'd fixed for her when it crashed last fall, giving me the password I never forgot. It was all there. Her Slack messages. Her archived Instagram DMs. Her email drafts she never sent, but never deleted either. There were playlists titled with inside jokes I wasn't part of. There were photos of her from the last company retreat. Photos I'd never seen before, taken at angles that only someone intimate would choose. In one, she's in a swimsuit holding a beer. In another, she's asleep on a couch, face turned toward the camera, blanket just barely covering her legs. And then there was the folder. For me, was the name. Inside were saved screenshots of their conversations. Not screenshots she took, screenshots he had sent her from his side of the chat. Messages like, "I can't stop thinking about your mouth," and "I hate pretending like you're not mine when we're at work." She had saved them. She had saved them. You don't save that kind of thing unless you plan to look back on it. Unless it means something to you. Unless it's real. I didn't copy anything. I didn't take screenshots. I just sat there, heart pounding, trying to decide if this was the moment I left. If this was the line that finally couldn't be unblurred. But then my phone buzzed. A message from her. Hey, I forgot to say, don't forget to pick up stuff for your mom's birthday dinner. Can you handle that? Just like that. Like I was her assistant. Like I was her cover. Like I was still useful. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't an affair she was hiding. This was an affair she was managing. Like a calendar appointment. And I was the time slot she no longer respected. 2 nights after I found the folder on her laptop, we went out for dinner. Or rather, she insisted we do something normal, like couples are supposed to. I didn't want to go. Every part of me wanted to stay home and pretend the world wasn't happening. But she was persistent. She said, let's not sit in silence again tonight, Clint. It's weird. So I agreed. Like an idiot. We went to this fusion place she likes. Small plates, overpriced cocktails with herbs in them, waiters with ironic mustaches. She wore red, the color she used to save for birthdays and weddings, and now she was wearing it for a Thursday night dinner with the man she was slowly replacing. The moment we sat down, she picked up her phone. Not for a text. Not for photos. She opened her camera like she was framing a picture, not of the food, not of the restaurant. Of herself. She turned slightly in the booth to get her good side, clicked the shutter 3 times, applied a filter, then typed something out and hit send. I asked who it was for. She said, oh, nobody. Chill, buddy. Buddy. That word landed heavier than anything else she could have said. Not babe. Not love. Not even Clint. Buddy. Like I was the person who helped her move last week, not the man who kissed her knuckles in the hospital hallway when her dad had a heart attack. It was a demotion, and we both knew it. The dinner was robotic. She asked about my job like she cared, nodded at the right places, even smiled once. But I could see the effort in her eyes. She was performing kindness the way a waitress performs politeness. Scripted. Timed. Already planning her exit. Then halfway through dessert, her phone buzzed. She picked it up, glanced at it, then flipped it face down. A twitch in her mouth betrayed something. A flicker of a smile. I didn't ask. I didn't need to. I knew exactly who it was. I just watched her spoon creme brulee into her mouth, like she wasn't emotionally commuting between 2 men and pretending this was Switzerland. On the drive home, she asked if I wanted to watch a movie. Like everything was fine. Like this wasn't the softest breakup in progress. I said sure. We watched a comedy I can't even remember the name of. I don't remember laughing once. She scrolled her phone through half of it, only looking up to react when she knew I was watching. Then came the worst part. At the end of the night, she turned to me, not seductively, not warmly, but mechanically, and asked if I wanted to be close. That's what she called it. Be close. Like she was checking off a box or offering charity. I froze for a moment. My stomach turned. I wanted to say no, to walk out of the room and sleep in the guest bed. But some sick part of me, the desperate, delusional part, nodded. She kissed me like she didn't mean it. She touched me like she was trying to remember what it used to feel like. And when it was over, she rolled over and went to sleep in seconds. I laid awake, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'd just taken a loan out on a lie I'd never be able to repay. I wasn't sure what was worse, the betrayal itself or the fact that I kept letting it happen. But something shifted that night. Not in her, in me. Because as I lay there, my arm numb under her weight, I started planning. Not revenge. Not confrontation. An escape. I don't know exactly when she stopped seeing me as a person, but I know the moment she started treating me like a liability. It was Saturday morning. The air was sharp with burnt coffee because I'd let the kettle boil dry again. I stood at the kitchen sink, staring into nothing, and she walked in like someone checking on the status of a half-functioning appliance. She asked what my plans were for the day. I said I had work to catch up on. I didn't. I just needed to be alone, to think, to breathe, to exist without feeling like a stranger in my own house. But then she said it. You should give me your schedule so I can help you stay on track. I turned around, confused. My schedule? Yeah, she said, stirring oat milk into her coffee. Your week's always so chaotic, and I feel like you're constantly overwhelmed. I can manage it for you. Like block time for work, errands, sleep, stuff like that. That wasn't kindness. That was containment. That was her subtly saying, if I know where you are, you won't show up somewhere I don't want you to be. I didn't respond. I just nodded and said I'd think about it. She kissed my forehead like I was her elderly father and walked out humming something upbeat. The thing is, I wasn't chaotic. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was watching her collapse our marriage like a sandcastle and wondering how much longer I could pretend it wasn't happening. But something had changed in me since that night we went to dinner. The numbness was turning into clarity. I was starting to see everything without the fog of hope or denial. I started writing things down. Not in a dramatic way. No secret journal with tear stains, just quick notes. Things she said, places she went, small inconsistencies, times she claimed to be running errands for hours with nothing to show for it. It wasn't to catch her. I already knew. It was for me. To remind myself I wasn't imagining it. To keep me grounded. To build a record for the part of me that still wanted to forgive her. Later that evening, she came back from yoga wearing jeans. I asked how the class went, just to see what she'd say. She didn't flinch, said it was intense and that her shoulders were sore. Then she leaned in and asked if I'd be able to give her a massage later. There's a specific kind of cruelty in being used for comfort by someone who's comforting someone else behind your back. I told her I had a headache. She rolled her eyes and said, "You're always tired. You need better energy." Better energy. Like I was a battery she was sick of charging. That night, I lay in bed again beside her. This time not out of confusion, but calculation. I started to notice things I hadn't before. The way she angled her phone away when she scrolled in bed. The way her smile only appeared when she was reading, never when she was speaking to me. The way she talked in her sleep, murmuring little things I couldn't make out. Once she even laughed. It wasn't my name she whispered. It wasn't even a name I recognized. The next morning, while she was in the shower, I walked out to her car. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just following the ache in my chest. And sure enough, there it was. Her passenger seat reclined back, faint imprint of someone's head still pressed into the leather, an empty Red Bull in the cup holder. A hoodie in the back seat that didn't belong to either of us. I didn't take it. I didn't move anything. I just stood there in the driveway, the wind cold against my neck, realizing she had stopped hiding it because she thought I would never leave. That my silence was compliance. That my love was a leash. But what she didn't know was that I had already started the process. Not of revenge, of removal. And soon, she'd feel the absence she thought she wanted. Only it wouldn't come with closure. It would come with a mirror. It was the little things that started to throw her off. She came home late again on a Tuesday, saying traffic had been awful and some idiot backed into a pole at the intersection. She expected me to ask for details, to poke, to pry, but I didn't. I just nodded and said, "Glad you're safe," and went back to rinsing the dishes. I could feel her watching me, not with guilt, but with confusion, like a queen who noticed her subject had stopped bowing. She poured herself wine and leaned against the counter. "You're quiet lately," she said. "It's unsettling." I didn't look up. I've been thinking a lot. About what? Boundaries. There was a pause, the kind that fills a room with tension without a single sound. Then she laughed, forced, dry, almost mocking. "Are you seeing a therapist or something?" "Not yet," I said, "but I've been reading." That part was true. I'd started reading about emotional detachment, trauma bonding, cognitive dissonance. All those terms that used to sound like clickbait, but now felt like autopsy reports of my marriage. The more I read, the more I saw her tactics for what they were. Not spontaneous emotional slips, but patterns. Designed, rehearsed, efficient. Later that night, I unplugged our Alexa device from the kitchen. I didn't tell her. I just did it. The next morning, she plugged it back in without a word. When she asked if I was free to go with her to a charity gala next weekend, the same one Rylan was definitely attending, I told her I had a conflict. She didn't ask what it was. She was starting to feel it, the unraveling. You see, when you stop fighting for someone who's actively betraying you, it scares them more than rage ever could. Because now they have to wonder what you're planning. Silence becomes a storm they can't read. Distance becomes a threat they can't name. I started packing little things, a watch, my childhood baseball glove, a few books I cared about, into an old duffel I kept in the closet. Nothing obvious. Nothing she'd notice right away. But I was preparing. Preparing to disappear from her world in the same quiet, hollow way she had disappeared from mine months ago. The real shift came on a Thursday evening. She walked into the living room wearing a dress I had never seen before. Tight, wine-colored, deliberate. Her makeup was sharper than usual. I was sitting on the couch, laptop open, researching apartment rentals 2 towns over. She asked how she looked. I looked up, took my time. Then I said, different. That one word knocked something sideways in her. She frowned. Different good or different weird? Just different. I went back to typing. She stood there for a moment like she was expecting me to get up and kiss her. I didn't. I didn't even pretend to want to. A minute later, she grabbed her keys. Don't wait up, she said. I didn't. She came back at 2:40 a.m. I was asleep, or at least pretending to be. She climbed into bed and tried to spoon me, like old times. Her hand slipped around my waist. I didn't move, didn't flinch, just kept my breathing steady and slow. Eventually, she gave up and rolled away. And in that moment, I realized something important. She wasn't afraid of losing me before because I had made it so clear she never could. I was dependable. I was loyal. I was safe. But now she was starting to wonder. And when someone like Marley starts wondering if she's losing control, that's when they start falling apart. One hairline crack at a time. I woke up that morning feeling calm in a way I hadn't felt in months. No dread. No anxious searching for her voice downstairs. No need to check her phone or piece together her lies. The sun was coming through the blinds just right, warming the corner of the bed where she used to sleep curled up beside me. Before the shift, before the silence, before Rylan. The house was quiet. She had left early again. Probably a meeting. Probably a latte and a smirk and more long glances across a conference table. It didn't matter anymore. I wasn't angry. I wasn't broken. I was ready. The bag I'd packed slowly over the weeks was zipped and leaning against the front door. My laptop, charger, wallet. A folder with the lease agreement for a small one-bedroom apartment 45 minutes away, already signed. A key. A toothbrush. A future. I walked through the house one last time, touching the walls like you would an old friend you'd grown distant from. The couch where we used to fall asleep mid-movie. The fridge covered in takeout magnets and expired coupons. The bookshelf I built for her when she said she wanted a space that felt like a home. It never became that. At least not for both of us. I left a note on the counter. Not bitter. Not poetic. Just honest. You've known this was coming. I've just been slow to catch up. I don't hate you. I just can't do this version of us anymore. Don't call. That was it. No accusations. No begging for closure. Just a full stop at the end of a sentence I had rewritten too many times. When I stepped outside, the air felt sharp and new. My car felt lighter. The world didn't look any different, but I was. I spent the first few days in that apartment just breathing, eating simple food, sleeping without anxiety, listening to music that wasn't interrupted by passive-aggressive comments. I didn't check her socials. I didn't wonder what she was doing. I just started remembering who I was before I shrunk myself to fit her shrinking affection. She tried calling once. Just once. I didn't answer. She sent a message a week later that simply read, I didn't think you'd actually do it. I didn't reply. Because that was the point. I had spent so long trying to be the man who stayed, the man who forgave, the man who understood her. But in the end, the most loving thing I ever did for myself was walk away from someone who had stopped choosing me long ago. It didn't end in flames. It ended in silence. And sometimes, that's the most powerful ending of all. Because I'm not waiting for apologies anymore. I'm building something new, something honest. And this time, I won't lose myself inside it.